Okay, we're going live here. Appreciate you if you're on here jumping on. And if you do have any questions, always put them down there in the comments. I'll certainly get to them as quick as possible. But what I want to talk about today is it's never been harder, and I mean ever, to be a craft brewer than it is right now. 2025 is tough, but here's the thing: lots of stuff is changing, lots of things are new and different. And while that I'm sure is offering and providing a lot of frustration on your end, it creates opportunity. And what I want to do in this live stream is talk about some opportunities to grow your brewery using three simple, easy ways. Um, and by sharing these with you, I hope you're going to be able to implement some, if not all of them, into your business. And more importantly, I'm confident that if you follow these instructions I'm going to give you, you're going to see a lot of success. And not only do I think that these things are important, in fact, I'm going to say that the third thing I'm going to touch on, it's a number one thing today a craft brewery should be doing to grow. And by grow, I mean bringing new customers into the business. And here's the thing: I don't see virtually anybody doing this. And by doing this now, you are really going to put yourself ahead of folks today. And more importantly, you're putting yourself ahead of a curve. And honestly, this curve, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this curve might be the single biggest change that any of us are going to experience in our life. So if you're going, wait a minute, Trip, you're really kind of going off the deep end here. I get it, but here's the thing. It is super powerful. But rather than kind of build it up, let's dive into things. The first thing I want to talk about is the importance of having a mechanism or mechanisms in place to take someone who the first time they've walked into your brewery to move them from a one-time visitor to a three-time visitor. And three, that's really a magic number because what happens when someone goes from a one time visitor and in a short order becomes a three-time visitor? The likelihood of them becoming a regular of your business, a regular at your brewery, goes from about 25% to 70%. So think about it. Let's not break it down. I'm not a mathematician, but we're really talking about increasing the likelihood three times by getting them to come visit you for that third time. And it's hard to get people to come to your business once, but it is the hardest thing getting them to come back the second, third, and subsequent times, assuming you've delivered on what you're supposed to do and they enjoyed your product and the experience. It only becomes easier. So I want you to lean into that. And I want to put some mechanisms into there that are going to be easy for you to use. There are handles you can kind of set up and they'll kind of, for the most part, take care of themselves to some degree. But we're going to talk about three elements that you can be successful doing this one. What the first one, I'll call it kind of the hero method. And that relates to somebody in your brewery. It could be the owner, it could be the brewmaster if they're not the same person, of course. It could be a manager. Who it is isn't important, but there kind of should be a front-facing figurehead for your business. And that person, one of the most important things that they can do is touch people when they come in. That means walking around. I mean, I'm sure we've all been to restaurants where the chef at some time comes around and stops at each table and says, how are things? Answer questions, but most importantly, they make a connection with them. Have you ever had somebody when you're looking for maybe, let's say you're going to go out and buy a car? They'll tell you, oh, you know what? I know the owner, John, over here at XYZ Subaru. Go see John. Tell him Trip sent you. People want to kind of have a connection with the main person, whoever that figurehead is. So you want to make sure you've got that figurehead in your business in one way, shape, or form. And when they go around, let's say it's you, just for argument's sake, when you go around and you're touching the various tables and the different people along the bar, I would recommend doing it from behind the bar, but it's okay to do it on the other side. The logistics will tell you how to do it and how many people are sitting there. But when you do go around, you want to, in some way, when you're talking with folks, find out if it's their first time coming. And then what you're going to do at that point is you're going to give them a mechanism to come back. It can be a card, it can be some sort of an instruction, but they'll get something special if they come back. And a key thing to make sure that they're going to pull that lever themselves and be back number two is put a time frame on that. Hey, you know what? If you come back within these next 2 weeks, I've got a special reserve bottle of a special IPA I made. I see you drinking an IPA, you love it. I'll have a special IPA that you can try. If you can get back here in the next couple of weeks, I'll make sure I've got that for you. Now, of course, you can have it right now, but the key thing being is see what I'm doing is you're getting that person to come back again, and that's that second time. Now, of course, when they ask for that special IPA, now a certain situation could be where you say, hey, you get that to them, you interact with them. What are you doing? You're creating a relationship with them. And now at that point going forward, you can use a mechanism like, hey, Sally, I see you really love this new IPA that I've gotten. I'm glad you did. You got other friends who are really into craft beer. Super. Do me a favor here. You give me a business card, a special card you can have put together, or some sort of trigger that'll be activated with somebody behind the bar or service people, whatever that trigger is. Then at that point, what they'll do is maybe free merch or maybe an app or appetizer, something that gets them to come back that third time. And I'd always like to kind of try and get them to bring somebody. Using that IPA, the special IPA example, I'd say something like, so listen, why don't you, if you come back here in March, why don't you make sure, give the server this, if you bring a friend, I want them to try that. I want them to try us. I want them to experience us. And you know what, just for coming back again and bringing somebody here, I'll make sure you get some free merch. Here's a voucher for $10 worth of free merch. If you figure your merch is probably marked up at a 3x, what you're really doing is you're giving somebody $3 for free. And if you think about that, guys, $3 to create a regular is about the cheapest way you could go forward, right? So think about that. In your process. That's the hero method. That's something you can put into your business. Another thing to do is to get folks onto your mailing list. You don't have a mailing list, an email list. Ideally, I'd recommend getting three things when you do it: getting um, a phone number, email address, and physical address. And the fourth thing, a bonus, birth date. And you should always every month be sending out information regarding birth dates. But what you want to do is, and why the email sequence is so great, or the SMS or both, is what you can have is an intentional follow-up that will help them come back the second and third times. And it's all automated because all of the software that I've seen out there that's tied to emails will allow you to put a sequence in. For instance, when someone first signs up, an email goes out. 24 hours later, a second email, maybe 48 hours, a third, etc. But what you'll want to do is create that sequence. It's a one and done situation. You want to measure how it works, of course, and tweak it if it's not performing as well, and try different things, but that shouldn't take a lot of time. But you create that once and then it's in place, and those emails come out automatically. So that's something that you can do and use. The third thing, it incorporates email, but a standalone type of loyalty program. Loyalty programs are super powerful because it makes someone feel special. Thinking back to what we were just talking about, that hero sequence, that loyalty program will make them feel like, gosh, you know what? I'm kind of special. I get something that other folks aren't getting. It can be tied to pricing. It can be giveaways. It can be special events. It can be all sorts of different things. But I will put, if not all three of those, at least two of those three into your business. And what you're going to do is the folks who do come, those new first time customers, you're going to increase the odds that they become a regular. That's going to boost your revenue. Now, I want to mention something that I put together. I've got a marketing guide for brewers. It covers not just some of the principles I'm talking about today, but different and powerful concepts as well. And, if I do say so myself, it's a great resource for you to have because It's going to allow you to strategically plan and strategically put some things into your business that are going to help your brewery grow. And it's designed to save you time and money. Um, right now, go ahead in the comments and put brewery, and I'll make sure you get that. And did I mention I give it away for free? Okay, let's move on to the second concept, the idea of optimizing your menu for revenue growth. There's two sides to this. You've got customer satisfaction, and of course, you have revenue growth. Those need to meet and work together. If they don't, it's not going to work. So, with that in mind, one of the things I think you have to consider today, given what we know about the folks who are coming into breweries in general, of course, I look at it from a tree top perspective. You'll look at it from the micro, your brewery. But in general, and there might be exceptions, but not many, I don't think, non-alcohol options are important. They can be your own, of course, or they could be outsourced somebody else's. But make sure that you do have those. And one of the things I would definitely do is your regulars. Remember, identifying and knowing them, that's so important. Not only do they grow revenue, but they offer you a lot of insight. Find out what they want. When regulars bring somebody, if you see somebody, talk to them if they're not drinking alcohol, an alcohol drink. Also, look around anytime you see somebody who's not drinking it. Find out if they like it, what things about it they do like. If they don't, ask them to be honest with you. What would they like to see? Because you need to tailor this. Probably when you started your brewery, this wasn't something that was really of importance. But guess what? We're talking about the things have changed. This is one of those things. So you do need to make this change in your business to move forward. Another thing that's super important is having some consistency across your brand and your concept. If you don't have those dialed in, that's hurting you, but I'm not going to dive deep into it. Let's assume you do. But one of the things that happens a lot of times with folks have that kind of dialed in is they go after the bright, shiny object somewhere. Let me go grab that. Let me bring that in. As an example, let's say your brewery's about making outstanding English style cask ales. And then all of a sudden on your menu, you have tamales. Now you might be able to bridge that gap. And again, I'm using a hypothetical here, but can you see how it's not congruent? Fish and chips, perfect. Sausage pie, perfect. Um, mushy peas, which I love, perfect. Tamales, nah, that's a square peg round hole. And you don't want to kind of try and do that because not only does it not jive with probably the flavors, but more importantly, the concept. Now you've muddied stuff. I'm eating a tamale and I'm seeing the Union Jack over here, and I'm seeing an English themed telephone booth over in the corner, but I'm eating a tamale with my cask ale. You see, it just doesn't go together. And people who are coming in your business, they want to have experiences. So do make sure that you are offering an experience that is as authentic as you can make it and as congruent from beginning, meaning when they're walking up to your building to the moment they walk out and everything in between. Now, the third thing I want to kind of dive into is this is the one where I said this is the number one thing. So I appreciate you being with me here to this point. Definitely put this into your business. I want you to walk away with this and with the idea of this has to happen. And it's tied to your website. Your website needs to be structured properly. And you might be saying, hey, Trip, guess what? I've always kind of learned to know that. But you see, there's a new structure. And let me tell you the changes that have made the structure of your website need to be altered. Um, Google and Bing are the first and third biggest search engines in the world. The second one is what you're watching me on now, which is YouTube. Um, but AI, and as it relates to Bing, specifically Chat GPT, Google has their Gemini. Um, the implementation of those two things in these longstanding and massive search engines um, is changing the way people are using search, the way Those two search engines are kind of gathering information and being prepared to provide it back to the people who are using them. Everything that they do and how they react, there's only one goal Google and Bing have. You put in a request for something to give them the answer they want. They want to be, and the better you can do that, the more folks they'll recommend your business to. It's that simple. Now, here's the thing. Many of you on your website probably have some sort of a menu page. You might have a menu that has everything. You might have a page that lists all your different beers with maybe a paragraph describing them. Um, but what you need to do, and from a treetop perspective, view it as anything that people are buying and spending money on needs its own dedicated page. Whoa, that's a lot of work, Trip. Yes and no. For the most part, you're going to create one page and it'll be there for a long period of time. Let's just talk about beer in this point, okay? The beer that you're brewing, every time you have a beer that's being introduced, you create a web page about it. It needs to be an in-depth situation, okay? I'm going to go over in a minute um, some of the things to make sure you have on that page. But talking about where Google and Bing are going to, um, up to now, folks would maybe search and put something in there like craft brewery near me, um, best IPA beer near me. Okay. Now, folks are being much more specific. Folks will start putting into these searches the same type of way that they're using AI for their business and personal lives. So it could be a situation where, like, they could say something like, I'm looking for a West Coast IPA, um, craft brewery near me. I don't want it to be the big national. I'm looking for a locally brewed beer um, within this city or this town. That's how folks are going to start to search, not just craft breweries, but everything because it's being AI driven. Now, AI, they're going, Gemini uses Google, of course, because they made it. They go, if you put in that request, Gemini goes through all the different websites around and they pull that information out. ChatGPT does the same thing on Bing. That's why they're both so important now. And if you answer the question best to them, meaning you have a beer that specifically lines up with what that person's looking for, you're going to be the one that they recommend. And it may change over time. Listen, I don't have a crystal ball, but when AI gives people an answer, that's it. They don't look anymore. So the way searches are going to be answered is going to be differently. It's going to pop up and just say, you want to go to, now I know it's not Omegang. I know the brewery. I just noticed that I got their sweatshirt on. It's a brewery I do really enjoy. But if they recommend Omegang for that specific type of beer they're looking for, game, set, match. They're going to recommend that, and those people are now getting in their car and heading to Omegang. That's how it works. So I think you can see you probably have some understanding of AI, and you're probably seeing Gemini on Google popping up and different things. And of course, everybody now has heard ChatGPT. If you haven't got on it, go ahead, take a little look because it's going to help wrap your brain around what I'm talking about. If you haven't been on there yet, you can use ChatGPT in a free version and really get a sense of what it's about. But so I want you to you can have an overview page of all your different beers because that's helpful, folks, on your website. But let's say you're producing 8 beers right now. All 8 beers have their own page, and on each page, I want you to make sure you've got details and specifics about the product. Okay, I want you to go a bit in depth on that. Next thing I want to make sure you have on there is some aspirational information. For example, why did you brew it? If it's something that the brewmaster has been thinking about doing and experimenting on his own, and he's finally got it right, he's coming out and he thinks that this is right now the best West Coast IPA being produced today. It's a little bit boastful, but that's what aspirational. That's my goal, and to not come off as sounding a bit pretentious. You can finish off the next sentence with something like, "Please come on in and try it, and let us know what you think. If you love West Coast IPAs, I'd love to get your feedback." And then the third element that I want to make sure each one of these pages has is a consistent and accurate NAP. NAP stands for name, address, and phone number. Now, in those three elements, they've got to be exact. Let's start with the phone number. That's pretty straightforward. You're going to have area code and phone number. If I'm talking to U.S. folks, if not, I understand. Some of my European and some in different countries, phone numbers need country codes sometimes. You know what the phone number looks like. That's pretty straightforward. Now, the address. Let's say your address is 495 Main Street. Now, are you going to write Main ST period? Or are you going to write Main with the word street spelled out? However you do it, that needs to be done everywhere all the time, on your Google listing and everywhere else. Why this is so important is it's very important when the search engines are sending somebody somewhere, they're confident they're giving them the right information. Now, do I think ST and street or AVE period and avenue, they can sort out? Yes, but why not just be consistent? Then it just creates a situation where they're more confident that they're sending somebody in the right direction. Now, the third spot where I think a lot of you get it wrong is tied to the end, meaning your name. Now, a lot of times, different parts are abbreviated. If you're in the US, you're probably an LLC or an incorporation. So you either are a limited liability corporation, LLC, or you're just incorporated, INC. I don't think you need that in your name. Nobody really cares. That's your legal name. But when it comes to this, I leave that off everywhere. The big mistake I see is sometimes it's put in, sometimes it's not. Don't do that. Do not. Keep it straightforward. Don't abbreviate situations like if you're the Louisiana Beer Company, don't sometimes spell out Louisiana and other times put LA period. Because guess what? LA can be Los Angeles. It can be a lot of different things. Again, do I think AI and the search engines, for the most part, can bridge this gap? Yes. But any gap, revenue can fall through. And, to be honest with you, when you put your name somewhere, if it's the Louisiana Brewing Company spelling out Louisiana to ensure you get all the revenue you can get, something you need to do. So those are those three things that I'm talking about. Just a quick reminder, if you've not yet done so, in the comments, go ahead and put brewery now, and I'll make sure you get my free marketing guide. I definitely want you to have that. Now, I do want to touch on one thing about this last part that's really important. You remember I said that this was the number one thing. Getting that website with the individual pages for each and every beer that you're brewing, it's so important. Where if you said to me, "Hey, Trip, I'm short on time. I've got a couple things I could do. I could do that, or I could post on social media." If it was one or the other, I tell you, forget about your social media accounts. It's that important because the lifeblood, I should say, of your brewery is getting new people in the door. And if you're not getting them in the door, eventually your business is going to die out. So that's got to be your number one intent. And social media is not the best way to get a new person to come visit your brewery. So it's that powerful, it's that important, and it's only going to become more and more and more powerful as we go forward. And the last thing I want to talk about this is keep this in mind. This is ahead of the curve. Now, when search engines recommend your business to somebody and people are satisfied, how are they satisfied? They either click like Google, give me the directions to that place, or they spend some time, a few minutes kind of looking through, they get all that, and then they don't search again. They don't pick the second or third option. They don't research under the same auspice to get a more accurate search to satisfy them. The more time people search, the search engine provides you as the solution, and the search engine views them as being happy, the more comfortable they are providing you as an answer. So that will move you up rankings. That just makes you more prominent. And again, that's about getting that first time visitor in your door. So that's it. If you are watching this as a recording, and you're not live on here with me now, you're probably going to see a video or two being recommended to you about now. And you should probably give that a watch, because I'm sharing ideas and concepts that will make your brewery thrive. And I'm going to see you over there in one of those videos. Cheers. Here's to your success.